In 2008, a soap opera titled Camino das Indias, shot and located in India, took Brazil by storm. For close to 18 months, streets wore a deserted look as Brazilian actors essayed Indian characters in Portuguese language.
Ella va a ser tuya, pero debes desearlo con todo el corazón.
Maya, yo amo a mi marido.
Everyday viewers sat glued to their televisions as the popular soap took them to the unfamiliar phenomenon of matchmaking, arranged marriages, and family honor. From the standpoint of selling India as a brand to the people of Brazil, nothing could have been bigger than this excellently produced TV soap. India was on the streets of Brazil despite its geographical distance.
Sem dúvida, completamente. Eu acho que houve uma transformação. O embaixador da Índia nos disse uma coisa para mim, para a Glória Pérez, muito comovente para a gente, que eu acho muito interessante, que a novela fez tanto ou mais do que 50 anos de chancelaria indiana. Então, assim, acho que o trabalho de divulgação da novela, da cultura, de trazer o diferente, o que causava um certo estranhamento, torná-lo próximo e querido, isso é inequívoco. Vou dar um exemplo banal, mas os Globetrotters estiveram aqui no Brasil e fizeram uma apresentação. E eles sempre têm aquele showman que apresenta, que aprende 2, 3 palavras locais para fazer para fazer uma aproximação com o público. As palavras que ele usou, as únicas palavras que ele usou foram palavras da novela, foram expressões indianas da novela. Baguan Kelie, Arebaba, Tique. Então ele usou, na realidade, expressões indianas e não nenhuma palavra em português.
In 2009, a similar magic between the people of India and South Africa was performed by the T20 cricket. The Indian Premier League, that hosts the T20 cricket, decided to organize and relocate its tournament in South Africa. India's historical ties with South Africa were recharged by this cricketing extravaganza.
I think the IPL probably has been a watershed event in opening the floodgates. I think there's always been interest, there's always been a trickle, but I think IPL has just broken the barriers down.
These two events prove amply that in the system of arranged marriage, the relationship amongst partners deepens with time. This is best revealed in the trilateral initiative of India, Brazil, South Africa, better known as IBSA. An alliance based on shared values of countries with similar global vision, interests, capabilities, needs and grievances, IBSA was conceived on the sidelines of the G8 summit in Evian by the heads of state of the 3 countries in 2003. It was felt by the leaders of the 3 countries that they needed to create a mechanism for facilitating South-South cooperation when it came to negotiating in multilateral fora like WTO or influencing the architecture of the world's financial system. Driven both by idealism and necessity, the Brazil Declaration unveiled the vision and architecture of IBSA. Since then, 6 ministerial meetings and 4 summits have been held, with the first one in 2006.
We are 3 developing countries from 3 developing continents with a diverse cultural background, with pluralistic societies, with pluriethnic societies. We are all democracies, either parliamentary or presidentialist, but all democracies. And we have, therefore, to quite a large extent, very similar positions in relation to global issues.
Look, I think IBSA is an incredibly important organization. I think it's particularly the alliance between India, Brazil and South Africa enables all 3 countries to play on the global agenda in a way that they wouldn't be able to play as single institutions.
IBSA serves to fulfill an important need for coordinated approach in multilateral negotiations.
The basic objective, as I mentioned, is that there should be equity and justice in the world. And all three countries approach international issues concerning the economy, concerning international trade, with this objective. Now, that does not mean that on every point there has to be a coincidence of views, but the broad objective and the broad approaches are similar, if not identical.
IBSA is a work in progress. It has 16 working groups on diverse sectors ranging from science and technology and environment on the one hand, and women empowerment, poverty alleviation and civil society on the other. The purpose is clear: to learn from each other's experience and build on the complementarities of each other to bring about positive change. To build on the people-to-people contact, a number of forums have been established, like the Women's Forum, the Editors Forum, the Academic Forum and the Business Forum, among others. The comparative advantage of these three countries are well known in their respective areas: Brazil in agriculture, aviation and biofuels; India in services, space and science and technology; and South Africa in agriculture, minerals and manufacturing services. Several MOUs under sectoral cooperation have been signed. After 7 years of active interaction and movement of ideas and people, IBSA has emerged as a powerful force with the potential to change the destiny of its people. Today one can see convergence, cooperation and collaboration taking place in business and other activities amongst the three countries.
I think I'm the true fruit of IBSA. I'm a Brazilian working for an Indian company in South Africa.
We are very, very close. I keep on saying, for instance, that when you go to a conference or a meeting abroad, the first thing that comes to our minds is to look for our Indian friends, to our South African friends, and we have to discuss a matter because we have the political coordination. We try to have this kind of intimacy, and in my opinion, that's the most important point.
Growing internationalization of national businesses, supported by governments, has provided confidence to work in these countries. It is common to see businesses from Brazil and South Africa leaping across watery divides to do business with India and vice versa.
What I believe is that a high-level understanding, that's what IBSA is looking for, okay, amongst the government, will create the right and broaden the lane, okay, in which all the companies, not only Embraer, but all the companies can go through and pave the way for something that is, I would say, more sophisticated, okay, and goes above just a business-to-business relationship.
By way of example, our airports. We've already moved into Mumbai. In terms of coal to oil or to gas, we've got Sasol. They're already in India. Our retailers are far superior to those in India, and there's some great opportunities in that arena. In terms of some of our management skills, there's some areas where we are ahead of India. Indians are way ahead of us in terms of information technology, and there's still some gaps in that market. But most of the big Indian players are there already. The other areas would obviously be in energy themselves or itself. There's a big play in energy. The Indians are ahead of us in terms of renewable energy.
Indian companies like Tata, Torrent, Zydus Cadila, Apollo, Mahindra and Sahara are enlarging their presence in sectors like IT, pharmaceuticals, automobiles and real estate in South Africa. Tata also has a tie-up with the South African coal-based oil company Sasol. Marco Polo, Latin America's biggest bus manufacturer, also has partnered with Tata to produce the low-floor buses in India.
We believe the potential market is bigger in India than South Africa, because South Africa is a very, in population and demand, is very low if you compare with India. So India is a huge demand, and there are many things to do in India, but the country is growing very fast. So in the last five years, increased 7-8% per year. So we believe India is the biggest market for us in the moment, of course, but in the future also.
We decided on India after quite an exhaustive process where we looked at jurisdictions outside of South Africa where we felt we had a competitive advantage. And India jumped out at us because of the long-term historical ties with India, the fact that there are many people of Indian origin in South Africa. And so we've got a really good relationship between the peoples, not only the people, but the governments of the two countries.
Now, when it comes to pharmaceuticals, I think there is a lot of commonality between Brazil, South Africa, and India. We have a large number of diseases. Our healthcare needs are similar. We have a large percentage of our population who have limited access still to modern medications. And I think if these countries work together, there is a good opportunity to do these things, to provide a benefit to all three countries.
Another sector where the growth has been rather encouraging is in precious stones like diamonds. South Africa is the world's leading diamond exporter, and India is a leader in diamond polishing. 9 out of 10 diamonds are polished here. Indian industry's presence in South Africa is adding value by imparting skills to the local workforce.
South Africa, basically, whole of Africa is full of diamonds. So that was the first attraction. So we started our business in buying diamond roughs in Africa and polishing. We call our best workers from India, and they teach the local staff here, because here we can find the people who can polish the diamonds. And but the latest technologies which the Indians have learned, and these people do not have that knowledge. So we call them from India. They do themselves work and they teach these people, so that slowly we will have more workforce here.
Furthermore, Indian companies are also making a foray into biofuels, an area where Brazil is a world leader.
Have developed the use of ethanol in our cars. You can use either gasoline or ethanol. And plus, Brazil with 200 million people, and you with 6 times our population, you represent a wonderful, great opportunity. More than 300 million people that really has the buying power. And so we've been growing this relation, making Brazilians understand which is the great opportunity, mainly having the Indians as the best partners in Asia, which I personally have been a testimony, because in my business we've been developing many relations, mostly at the beginning, my side, with the Indians in Africa. That's why IBSA is so important.
India is committed to developing the information and communication technology infrastructure in both Brazil and South Africa. A leading IT education and training company of India, NIIT, has started a series of training initiatives for the youth in South Africa. With centers in colleges and universities, their effort is to bridge the IT skill shortage in the country.
The broad spectrum of the project is training 10,000 people. We will be training 10,000 people over a period of 5 years. 5,000 would be in the ICT and 5,000 in business process outsourcing. The important part is it's not only the skills imparting, it's also ensuring that the employability of a student, a learner, gets enhanced. Now, under the ICT skills, there are various domains. We're talking about software engineering, we're talking about network engineering, we're talking about cybersecurity, we're talking about mobile applications, we're talking about database. Now, all these skill sets would ensure the learners who are coming with us, they get employable at the end of the day.
IBSA countries not only reinforce each other's economy, but also serve as an engine of growth for their own region.
We have a very positive right now scenario in Brazil. We have all the good ingredients. We have sort of the right conditions. The businesses are in the right conditions, but it requires a lot of capital. It requires a lot of intensive input, and a lot of input from India can help here. There is plenty space right now. There's especially space for technology firms, space for infrastructure firms, space for people who have knowledge and capacity in shipbuilding, knowledge and capacity in infotech, knowledge and capacity in BPO, so that all can be combined, because all these will require back offices, this will require basically computer structure and everything.
Operating in a policy environment of free trade and investment, the three countries have changed the quality, quantity and direction of world trade.
The world order is changing, the economic order is changing, and I think these three powerful economies are going to play a huge role in the coming decade. So clearly, the South-South cooperation, as we seeing, is now which is taking place, and of course during this meeting it will only get enhanced. We can clearly see the environment being created, especially for the Indian businessman, the kind of opportunities which are there, I would say tripartite, are immense and tremendous for cross investments to take place.
After all, IBSA represents 1.5 billion people with a GDP of approximately $3 trillion and trade of over $725 billion. They have set a trilateral target of reaching $25 billion by 2015 amongst themselves.
The ultimate test of this relationship is trade and investment. Unfortunately, trade is limited only to $14 billion. That's really small. Given that China, we have over 40 billion trade, with United States over 40 billion trade, the great countries of Brazil, South Africa and India must have at least 40 billion trade in the next 5 years.
I think we need to focus on specific areas that the three countries can work on together, whether it be in the area of agriculture, whether it be in the area of health, education and services. So we can then either through more intensive engagement and research and development in those areas have better outcomes, or in terms of trade and investment, then we can focus on specific areas of trade and investment where the result is more measurable and therefore progress is faster.
IBSA is committed to the eradication of poverty through sustained and inclusive economic growth. Due to their good fundamentals, the three countries could ward off the harmful impact of the economic crisis. However, the challenge of fighting poverty still remains. With a huge mass of poor people, the governments of India, Brazil and South Africa are trying to learn from each other's experience in fighting the scourge. Innovative programs like National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme of India, the Black Economic Empowerment Program of South Africa and the Bolsa Familia program of Brazil are an exhibition of the resolve of these countries to fight poverty. Their commitment to poverty alleviation has helped in putting together an IBSA fund with contributions from all the three countries.
In some way, countries like Brazil and India are now closer to be donors rather than to be receivers. So we have a lot of responsibility now with the other countries. And because our context is closer to the context of the poor countries. So now what is increasing is our responsibility, what's going on in the rest of the world.
The solid waste management project in Haiti is a case in point. With a focus on skill training, capacity building, education, energy and empowerment, there are many other projects that are either being planned or are already in execution.
The fund also serves, let's say, a political purpose of a statement on behalf of the three countries of what should be done in certain areas. We are supporting, for instance, the Palestine, and we have projects in the West Bank, but we also have projects in Gaza. We are now looking into projects in Burundi. We already have projects in Guinea-Bissau. We're looking in projects in Laos, in other countries, in East Timor. So we are facing, the countries that have many adversities upon them.
The global slowdown of 2008 and how it could hurt a large mass of people in the developing world has been a recurring theme in many of the interactions that have taken place between the three countries. Another issue that has brought urgency to build a common ground is climate change. All the three countries have interrogated closely the Western stand on this and devised, after careful assessment, what may be good for them. In December 2009 Copenhagen Summit, the compact between the three countries helped in climate change negotiations and outcomes.
We are, I think, a little bit tired of making the Europeans or Americans intermediating the business between us. I think we have to build our direct relations in any field. We buy a lot of chemicals, we buy a lot of things from India, but through other countries. Also, you buy many things from Brazil through other countries. So this relation is there. So I think in the last 4 or 5 years, we've been building this relation. We've been closer. This is the challenge, to be closer and closer.
The warmth of successful cooperation in Copenhagen and continuous interactions in G20 summits was visible when the three leaders from India, Brazil and South Africa met in Brasilia on 15th April 2010. President Lula, who was in the last phase of his presidency, made it clear that IBSA will survive individual leaders, as visible in the case of South Africa, where President Zuma succeeded President Mbeki. The three countries announced their resolve to launch big projects to give greater meaning to South-South cooperation. They promised to work on an IBSA satellite to study climate change. Documents on the future of agriculture and social development strategies, food security, and the challenges of global terrorism were also discussed.
Terrorism continues to pose a serious challenge to our developmental goals. It is a scourge that needs to be fought through collective international effort. We should make all efforts for the early finalization of the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism in the United Nations.
After almost 7 years of its existence, the IBSA has done better than what the Cassandras had predicted. It has created a climate of opinion in favor of this model of South-South cooperation. What started as a mechanism for multilateral negotiations has amazingly diversified into areas that not many had dreamed of. Distance, differences in language and culture are no longer an impediment to this evolving and expanding initiative. Sports and culture have indeed become major drivers of this compact.
The way that the IPL was put together in terms of the combination of entertainment and sport, and then on top of that, in particular Bollywood and the Bollywood theme that runs across the whole of the IPL, was very interesting, because it has been a lesson not only to sporting federations, whether it's cricket, soccer, rugby, etc., about how one can combine entertainment and sport and really do something unique and special. But secondly, it has exposed Indian culture to the world. I think not only to the South African world, but to the world at large.
Committed to economic growth through social equity and inclusion, the IBSA Dialogue Forum has been achieving synergy required to set the three countries on a path that would fully benefit the South. Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's dream that IBSA should be a project of the people seems to be coming true.